Joining us now on Biz One-on-One is Brad Trumble. He's the CFO of Visland Media. And Brad, you come to Visland Media after being out of the media business for a few years, but you're actually a pioneer in the whole cable world. So tell us a little bit about your history
Well,
with
everyone
television.
has a claim to fame,
Yeah.
right? I like to think that we all have those little markers on the wall that we like to say those are the things that we're somewhat famous for. One of them I think that everyone can relate to is the fireplace you see on television. It was actually
when
invented.
you say the fireplace, you're talking about at Christmas. I mean, we're in Canada here, and Christmas comes along, and now it's become a tradition. You turn the TV on and put the fireplace on, but this is now all over the world.
It's an idea that took off. And what it came down to is people at the cable television channel in Edmonton wanted to have that time off on Christmas Day. No one wanted to be there to plug tapes, because this is what you had to do back in the day, was line up your 3/4-inch tapes one after the other and play your programs.
Now, this goes back to when you were a programming director of a community access television
Station, Videotron Cable in West Edmonton.
Okay.
So guys came up with a brilliant idea that said, look, I'm going to videotape my fireplace at home. They put it on a 1-hour, 3/4-inch tape, which in truth was about 59 minutes long. They'd put the tape in to a VTR. This thing would run as 59 minutes, and then it would take 2 minutes to rewind and start again. So every hour, you had 2 minutes of blank screen, followed by 15 minutes of basically a fireplace.
With the sound and everything?
And they put Christmas music in the background.
Oh, okay.
And it was a very creative way for those people that had to work in the back room on Christmas Day. They got the whole day off because they put a tape in and they walked away. So
now, what happened now when people tuned into Channel 10 and they're looking, they go, this is just a fireplace?
well, it was so cute. We got people writing us letters, because you wrote letters back then, saying, what's coming up next? And then we had all these, how about an aquarium? How about an aquarium of fish? It was an interesting idea. So we did I thought some leading edge kind of ideas back in the day. Really what it was is at that time, Channel 10 was kind of like the low kind of stepsister of TV.
Right.
And you could always tell, you would be changing channels and you go, oh, there's Channel 10. The lighting was bad, programs were terrible. So we actually took the time.
I had a show on that channel
but
back
see,
then. Yeah.
you were part of the resurgence.
Yeah.
The idea was to increase the level of what we were doing and make the channel something relevant that people would actually stop and watch. We couldn't do commercials, but we were obligated to do community programming. So we introduced magazine style. We do a series of 5-minute videos making up about a 30-minute package. And we put 4 packages on. So we had 2 hours of programming, and then we just repeated it over and over again. Took a package out each day, put a new package in. I used to say, what we lacked in reach, we made up for in frequency. Because the stuff was on all the time.
Now, this fireplace story, that's become, a standard thing now around the world at Christmas time. And of course, now there's so many unlimited channels. You can actually have a channel
devoted
just
to
for the fireplace for Christmas. In Visland Media right now, in the distribution side of the business, there is a whole series about cats. Do you know about this?
Yes.
So this has become standard fare. So what is this series?
Well, unbelievable. There's a whole series devoted to nothing but, yes, absolutely, the antics and the uniqueness that cats do. I mean, let's think about this. The #1 YouTube video being posted is all things cats. Cats do weird things. So this is obviously playing into that. I mean, this is the world that we have today, the universe of programming, is you can get just about anything that your heart desires. And even within the Visland media of programming is a real broad, it really demonstrates a broad base of programming. Again, this is they call it non-scripted programming. This is
Right.
almost like reality TV to that extent. It's very broad and very wide. And I think appeals to a huge audience. Is this going to be main run television material? Perhaps not, but there's always a home for that type of programming. People are always interested in that type of thing. But even watch yourself. There is the gravitation at home. Do you always want to watch the top-rated #1 programming, or are you pulled away occasionally by the Discovery Network, the History Channel, the travel channel. These are the things that are showing. This is what we saw back in the day when cable television first evolved, that cable really initiated that and brought that window of musical programming, visual programming, to the world. I think one of the other things that I worked on a lot back in the day was this whole idea of continuous music programming, right? Because that's what we brought out. Was the initial programmer was DMX, Digital Music Express. And that was 30 channels of music, commercial free, all jazz, all rock, all country, without commercials.
And this is what, that's the early 90s kind of thing?
Very early, very late 80s, early 90s. We packaged that together and introduced it through Shaw. Shaw Communications had the initial license to be able to do this programming. And at the time, people looked at it and said, well, I don't understand that. I really don't. We would go to a cable television trade show where we would have various cable television companies from around Canada. We'd get the executives to put the headphones on. They go, oh, I get it. You mean this is like one music song after another without commercials? Yeah, that's pretty much what it means. Today, that just seems silly.
Yeah.
In the world of having your own music through iTunes, having your own through anything you ever want, that whole concept seems silly. At the time, it was revolutionary. This is sort of just as the internet is starting to take off. So we initiated a program where we took 15 channels of music from the United States, compared it with 15 predominantly Canadian channels, Canadian programming, and created a package of 30 music channels and sold it. It became part of a musical landscape today, pardon me, and in fact changed the musical landscape. At the time when we licensed, we didn't even have a rights agreement with the rights holders, and we had to go to the copyright board. So we cut new ground in that context. And I mean, today that programming exists today. It's under a couple of different brand names, and it's changed. In the same way that video killed the radio star, internet killed sort of subscription music, if you will. Although I'm very pleased to see it's come back in the form of iTunes is charging a small fees.
Yeah.
You've got these different programs.
I'm paying my $10 a month to iTunes, and I get unlimited access, and I deliver it through my phone. And it is, and I talked to the CEO of Visland about this too. How do we have things are changing now so quickly in technology. It's this hockey stick of technology. How does a business today, not necessarily even in the television business, but any type of business, you're a business guy, you've got your MBA, and you're also an accountant, and you've also been the president of this company within a large corporation, and you've also been in an entrepreneurial world. What do you see? Like, what's coming next? How do businesses adapt?
That's a very large and very involved question, but there's really, in my mind, sort of two parts to it: delivery or content. So you're either in the business of finding unique ways of getting what it is that you want to people, or you are what they want. You
Right.
are the content side. They used to talk about this when websites first evolved, that everybody had to have content. I mean, in other words, they had to have a reason to go there.
Yeah.
And they talked about richness. That was a key word, was richness of content. Is there stuff that's valuable? Is there any reason for me to even go to your website? So I think you're either in the business of developing content, developing material, giving stuff to people that are looking for it, or you're on the delivery side. You're making it easier for people. You're driving trends. You're driving this stuff towards people.
And in this new world, in the television world, the quote-unquote television world, because what is it now? Is it, when I watch on my phone a YouTube video, I'm not really watching television, but it kind of is television. Like or how about if I watch an NFL game, which is the highest quality of production value, and some of the most expensive content licenses, and I pay a fee, or I participate in whatever it is, NFL Network, and I'm watching it on my phone, or I'm watching highlights of it. Is it television, or what is it? Like, so even to say, is Visland a television company? What do you think?
No, but Visland is in the content business, because we're going to drive ourselves out there in that context, because where you get it, I mean, we're old enough to recall we think linearly too much.
Right.
And it's nothing personal, but maybe against your age, but we think linearly. We think of the cable-driven subscription. We think of the television delivery. But you just mentioned several random access ways of being able to establish yourself with the same content thanks to off-air, thanks to the internet. But again, it's going to come down to, why am I doing that? Because I want to see the content. I want to see the NFL game. I want to see the video on cats. And so Visland is perfectly placed as a gatherer of content and as a potential creator of content to play well within that game, because there's always going to be that demand for programming. People are going to want it and they're going to access it.
In the early days when you and I were first getting in the business, there was a quote, "Content is king." And it's never been more true than today with the unlimited distribution capabilities of all these different ways of delivering content. So great to get a little bit more of your insights. Brad Trumble, the CFO of Visland Media. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.